couple weeks, we are going to have the release of Marvel's first movie since Deadpool and Wolverine, and only their second movie in the last, 2 years. Yeah, they kind of took a hiatus last year, did not release anything other than the insanely successful Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie that everybody seemed to at least enjoy, and very much a lot of people loved it, and the film obviously smashed the box office, and now this year is going to be a bigger year for Marvel. The first film we're getting is obviously Captain America: Brave New World, a film that, quite honestly, is a little bit doomed, and has been doomed for quite some time. If you didn't know, Captain America: Brave New World is the first Captain America movie starring Anthony Mackie as the hero, as the named hero. Of course, we had the 3 Chris Evans Captain America films. This one is going to be the new Captain America, in the first Captain America movie in, this new age of the MCU. This film was announced all the way back in 2021, and it began filming, I believe, sometime in 2023, and, yeah, it had a lot of issues filming. It's one of the main issues I want to talk about why this film is actually doomed. It's a movie that is doomed to fail at the box office, and maybe also doomed to fail critically. I mean, that's a hard thing to predict. Who knows if this movie's going to be good or bad? I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be bad based off nothing other than trailers and stuff you've heard from early screenings. But after a very thorough marketing campaign to try to get people excited for this movie is on track to be one of the biggest box office bombs ever, having a smaller pre-sale for tickets than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is obviously another film that was a big bomb for Marvel. Now, why is it? Why is this movie in such a bad position? Well, it's for a few reasons. Reason number A, and this is the obvious one, it's because of the state of Hollywood, the film industry, comic book movies, and the MCU as a whole. There is, and I know a lot of people might not want to admit this at the moment, there is superhero fatigue. You can see it in pretty much every comic book movie that's come out over the past few years, even some that have been decent. Most of these movies are bombing at the box office regardless of quality. We've had a few that have kind of gone against, that sort of philosophy, but those have been movies like Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool, who is a major franchise character, or Spider-Man: No Way Home, another major character. The Batman, a huge character, right? So anytime, but since the year 2020, since COVID, all of these other superheroes that are maybe not as well known, they just haven't been seeing that box office success when they have a film made about them. That also goes into part because of the quality of films. We've had a lot of terrible comic book movies over the last 4 years, but I just genuinely think audiences are tired, and they're not as accepting of mediocre writing and quality movies as they might have been pre-2020. Because pre-2020, there were a lot of very mediocre comic book movies that were, guaranteed to slam the box office, right? Stuff like Captain Marvel, stuff like the first Aquaman movie, movies that are, fine, but aren't anything great, but were billion-dollar hits. Those are franchises that would kill to hit $1 billion at this point. So because of that, a property like a new Captain America starring somebody that's not Chris Evans, it's a hard sell, I think, to audiences that have lost trust with the studio that they could deliver a high-end, high-quality product, and an audience that's also just kind of tired. When they do go to the theater to see a superhero movie, they want to make sure it is an amazing superhero movie with a character that they are familiar with, like a Superman, a movie that I'm sure will do extremely well in the summer. Now, Captain America is obviously a well-known entity, but this is a new Captain America. It's not Chris Evans. It's not surrounded by all these MCU characters like in Civil War and Winter Soldier. No, this is Anthony Mackie as Captain America messing around with Harrison Ford. Yeah, so because of that, I think people are just not excited for this. Now, reason number B for why this film is doomed is because of all the noise that has surrounded its production and how horrible the production of this thing was. Now, I wasn't there. I wasn't involved in the production of this movie, so I can't sit here for certain and say how much of a shit show it was, but from leaks that we've gotten, this film filmed once, right? They filmed from start to finish a whole script. That movie is no longer the movie that's about to come out, because after extraordinarily poor test screenings a year ago, the film was delayed and then reshot almost completely to become a brand new movie. And then after very poor test screenings for that cut, they reshot even more of this. This film went through more reshoots than I've ever seen. This is going to be a Frankenstein-type movie where it's just a monster of a film that is nothing like what the original vision was. And it's partially because the rumors, at least, were that that original version of this film was very much diving into the 2020 political state of the world. And if you haven't noticed by the world today, the political state in this country specifically has very much changed from 2020. It's actually done a complete 180. The way people talked, the way things were accepted, the way social media kind of acted and was regulated, all of that stuff has done a complete turn. So things that were maybe making money and popular in 2020 are now being shit on in 2025. So yeah, that's a movie that probably wasn't going to work. There were going to be aspects of the film that spoke very much towards that 2020 political climate, with Harrison Ford apparently being a stand-in for Donald Trump and being this very negative, angry character, which of course you would expect Hollywood to portray. But now that we live in a new world where obviously Donald Trump is back, it appears that most audiences don't want to have that same lecture that maybe they were open to back in 2020 and 2021. So obviously that's something that at least I'll give Disney credit. They said, maybe we shouldn't make this kind of political movie because the world has changed. Maybe we should change it a little bit, do some reshoots. But the issue is when you do that, when you take a vision of a film and you rip it apart so much, it ends up being a mess of a film. So unless they tore down the whole thing, 100% of everything they shot, and then restarted from point A, it's just going to be kind of a disaster here. We've had a lot of characters kicked out of the movie, cut out of the movie. Seth Rollins, one of my favorite wrestlers. He was supposed to be in this movie. He was cut out. Giancarlo Esposito, somebody who was not supposed to be in this movie, was not a part of the first shoot that they did. Well, now he is apparently a major part of the movie as a big villain. Harrison Ford, who was a major aspect of the first cut, is apparently relegated to a much smaller runtime. Does not have as much of a presence or as much screen time in this film, apparently, as originally planned. And there's just so much other things going on about this that now the budget for this film has skyrocketed to some people saying that it could be around $240 million, which if you don't know how Hollywood works, for this film to really break a profit, it's going to have to make like $800 to $900 million. And if you look at the grand scope of Hollywood and comic book movies, there aren't many of those making $900 million or anything close to that at the moment. So what does it mean if Captain America Brave New World fails? If this movie comes out and it is a box office bomb, even if it is a critical success, because I do think that's the one thing that could save it. If it does come out and it ends up being a great movie, I think the word of mouth of people saying, hey, this new Captain America film, it is actually worth your time, I think that will push that large grouping of people that have kind of given up going to see comic book movies. They will go to the theater and see it. Word of mouth is something that a lot of these studios, a lot of these companies don't take seriously, but it is a major aspect that drives people to the box office in 2025. I would say it might be the biggest aspect that drives people in. People want to know before they see a movie if the movie's good or not. They don't want to go in blind and risk seeing a horrible movie that they're going to hate. Most people use Rotten Tomatoes to judge if they're going to the movies or not. Therefore, if this movie is reviewed well, I do see a reality where it could end up doing better than people are seeing, or what the opening day projections are suggesting. But if this film is a critical disaster, I think the box office here is going to be one of the biggest messes Marvel has ever experienced, with Captain America being one of their flagship characters, one of their flagship franchises. If this movie fails the way that I think a lot of people are expecting it to, it could really hurt the franchise. Now, I know they're not putting all of their eggs in this basket, right? Marvel is not betting everything of their franchise on this movie. Of course, they have a Fantastic Four movie coming out later in the year that I think that is the major bet. If that movie fails, then I think there will be a real discussion of what now. But it just is a shame to see here in 2025 a Captain America movie pretty much doomed to fail. If you were to go back 6-7 years ago, and if you told me, hey, there's going to be a Captain America movie one day that from the get-go, before it even comes out, is pretty much already a failure, I would have said you're out of your mind, because a Captain America movie, that should be a guaranteed $1 billion. But it's just the state of how things change, and it's okay. Change is okay. Just because comic book movies are kind of falling off a little bit, and they're not all doing as well as they used to, that's not a horrible thing. Times change, the industry changes. There was a time where making a Western was a guaranteed to make $1 gazillion. Those times changed. Things change. There will be a new evolution of Hollywood. Maybe comic book movies will come back. But you know what this does do? Movies like Captain America being doomed to fail, and a lot of these other movies being bad, what it does is it forces the studios to work harder on making good movies. And at the end of the day, that is what we, the audience, should want. We shouldn't want more We shouldn't want more quantity, more content. We want 15,000 superhero shows. No, we should just want good shit. And if that's the result of this movie and a lot of the bombings that we've seen from Marvel, then good. But yet again, their movies have been bombing for years, and they just keep making bad movies, so who knows? Disney doesn't really learn their lessons. Kathleen Kennedy's still working at Lucasfilm, so who knows? What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one.